Oh. Okay guys, first video for the 2025 season. Now, a few things to touch on here. So you probably notice looking at me here that this looks a little bit different to usual. Same room, a few of the same things, but an unfortunate incident over the holidays. I was away on holiday having a wonderful time, all good, arrive home and the house has been broken into and the studio totally stripped of all valuables. So a really tough way to start the year, and the main reason that I haven't been creating videos up until this point, I had a big grand plan to put all this stuff together. I wanted to do draft stuff, I wanted to do my general AFL content, even a bit of fantasy stuff, but it hasn't worked out like that for me. So a disappointing time, but with a bit of a silver lining, because jumping into this video, sponsoring this video for me today are the good people at Video Pro, who are a company that I buy a lot of my camera gear, a lot of my electrical stuff from. A lot of the stuff that decks out this studio was from Video Pro. They stepped in this really difficult time for me and have gifted me a Rodecaster 2 that I had before that was stolen from me. They've given that back to me, which is, amazing in these times when I was trying to put videos together. I didn't really know what I was going to do, and missing all of that gear is a bit of a stressful time. So they've stepped in, helped out their creators, helped out the people that purchase from them. So a massive thanks to them. They are sponsoring this video and have given a discount code. So if anybody out there, the fans, are looking to buy anything from the home entertainment, TVs, audio panels, those sorts of things, anything in that space, as well as this kind of stuff, this production stuff, video cameras, video switches, audio devices, they have it all. And as I said, I was shopping with them very often before this actually happened. So they've obviously gone up massively in my books anyway, but they had some of the best prices out there. So any of that stuff, use the code down below and you'll be inadvertently helping out this channel because they've helped me out in such a time of need. So this video today, this one's going to be just all about some of the 2025 prospects. This channel kicked off last year as a draft prominent channel. We obviously do AFL stuff as well, but I thought we could kick into some of the narratives and some of the players in that 2025 draft. I think probably if we just start by, we can kind of look at the 2024 draft crop and sort of put it up against the 2025 crop and look at some of the similarities and the differences. I think if we begin with the midfield, I think one of the narratives going through the 2024 year was about the midfield heavy side of it. I think this year we don't have that so much. So there's a lot of key position players at the top end, not so many midfielders, but I do think there's an element of that when these guys are in their bottom age year, I still think the majority of them are going to end up being, or there's going to be a strong presence of midfielders at the top end of the draft, just because when they're in their bottom age year, they just don't get that opportunity, whether that's because the coach is sort of favouring those players that are in their draft year. I think that's a big thing. And often they'll just get pushed to like an auxiliary position. We look at someone like a Willem Dersma, who I expect to be playing in the centre bounce in the upcoming season. He wasn't there because he's got people like Xavier Lindsay and other players that want to get drafted ahead of him. You look at someone like Noah Hibbins-Hargraves, another one in this 2025 draft crop that didn't really get a look into that Dandenong Stingrays midfield because of players like Cooper Hines, like Harvey Langford, like Elwood Peckett, and they're not really going to push ahead of those guys. Which brings me on to another narrative of the 2025 crop, which is to do with the amount of Victorian players. I think there was a heavy amount of Victorian players, and I think it's a bit of a same situation there, where you've seemingly in this 2025 crop, you've got more of a spread, more of a national kind of draft in that sense, where not the majority of the top end players don't seem to be from Victoria. But I do think, again, there were opportunities for some of those players in different states. You look at some of the states, like obviously your Vic Metro and your Vic Country were the two strongest squads from last year, which meant less availability, less opportunity for those bottom ages to push into strong positions. You think about that Vic Metro midfield with Smiley, Ashcroft, Jagger Smith. Nobody else was really going to get into that. So the players that did get opportunity were from the other states. You think about Dyson Sharp at South Australia, Sam Cumming, South Australia, Fred Rodriguez, who was a Western Australian who got some opportunity there as well, and like Daniel Annable with the Allies. So I think As the season goes on, I think you are going to see more, firstly, midfielders. You're going to see a heavy amount of midfielders come through throughout the season, and also those Victorian players, particularly from that Vic Metro area. I think they're going to be really prominent. So staying on the midfielders and having a look at some names and things like that, I think we can kind of have a look at... I wanted to take the futures game because that's probably one of the biggest performance indicators that we have at this early stage of the season. We don't have any 2025 season form, so much is going to change anyway. So I want to reiterate that point. There's going to be so much development in this year from, between the ages of 17 to 18. We're going to see so much change. But if we look at that starting centre bounce from a midfield perspective at the futures game, Dyson Sharp was in there, Oliver Greaves was in there, Blake Kelly was in there, Daniel Annabelle was in there, Fred Rodriguez was in there, and Bo Adensel were in there. So you've got Sharp, who's sort of this bigger-bodied midfielder, as is Oliver Greaves. They're both over 190 centimetres, base their game predominantly on reach and strength. To be honest, I haven't seen enough of those players to project too much upside at this point. You look at down the list there, Blake Kelly, Daniel Annabelle, Fred Rodriguez, and Bo Adensel. Probably a little bit smaller. I think Fred Rodriguez is pushing the 190 centimetres mark off the top of my head. But I think the thing there, and it's something that we talked about a lot throughout the 2024 season with midfielders, is this idea of kind of ready-made. The ones that are ready-made right now, they can find the football really easily. They're high IQ players. They've got a heavy endurance base. Those sorts of ones seem to be the ones that thrive at this stage and seem to be able to step up into those moments. I want to juxtapose that starting futures midfield against the previous year, so the players that got drafted in 2024. So you look at that game back on Grand Final Day in 2023, it was Jagger Smith, Levi Ashcroft, Sid Draper, Finn O'Sullivan, Sam Marshall, and Joe Harrison. So again, Draper and Finn O'Sullivan are probably pushing that more athletic type player, that more speed and power type player, but they probably toe the line a little bit between accumulator and powerful player. There's no Sam Lawler there, of course. There's no Josh Smiley there, of course. So I think in this early stage, what we see is probably less of the upside players. And I think the season will start a little bit like that, where you have these more accumulator types and the types that get the numbers, and then the players that need to do a lot more developing, they'll start to come along and you'll be able to see that from them throughout the season. So I just thought looking at those two midfield kind of groups there from the 2 years was kind of interesting to look at that holistic sort of idea of the athlete or the projected player, which is kind of what we're trying to do here in the draft versus the guys that are sort of ready-made, and able to step in and play a role straight away. But essentially what I'm saying is that, looking at those players that were at that centre bounce in the futures game, your Daniel Annabelles, your Sam Cummings, some of those players, they could well be overtaken as the year sort of goes on. So I think we should just keep that in mind. October is the draft, not January, 100%. So who else have we got in there? I think the players that could make those moves as far as the athletic types, the ones that are going to get more midfield opportunity that haven't had that so far. You're looking, for me at the moment, players like Willem Dersma. He has such a brilliant athletic profile, so much to like about him. He sits at over 190 centimetres. Up until this point, really only been used as a utility. But if he goes and starts attending centre bounces, winning clearances, you're going to be able to see the full package that is Willem Dersma. I think Noah Hibbins-Hargraves sort of reminds me a little bit of someone like an Archer Day Wicks at this point. He's sort of like just operating around the half-forward flanks. He looks quite athletic. He looks really good overhead. He's got a lot of things to like about his game, and I think he's one that could move into the midfield for Dandenong. And the other one I'm really, really excited about is Max King from the Sydney Academy, a 191 centimetre. Is he a key forward? Is he a medium forward? Is he a midfielder? Like, I'd absolutely love to see that. And he was one that was breaking some serious records for the 20-metre sprint, the endurance stuff. So he's kind of got that full hybrid athlete profile. So they're the ones that I'm looking out for, and I'm sure we're going to have a heap of players unearth those, late developers and stuff like that as well. But we'll move on. We'll have a look here at the key position players, the ones that I'm pretty excited about. I think this is an area that we can almost guarantee at this point will be a little bit stronger than the 2024 crop. As far as the key position players, particularly the ruck players, we have a couple in Cooper Duff Tytler, who was at that starting centre bounce as a ruck in the Futures game, as well as Lewis Emmett. So he's another one. Similar type ruckmans, I think Lewis Emmett's a little bit more combative. He's sort of a bit of a raging bull, crash and bash style, and I think AFL teams are going to really value that with the athleticism, but that ability to be able to follow up, take the ball out of the ruck's really important and sort of get it inside 50, get your territory game going. I think Lewis Emmett's going to be that, and he can push forward and take marks inside 50 as well. And then you've got Cooper Duff Tytler, who just looks like such an athlete. He looks like he's got such clean hands below ground level. Like, you saw him really in those contests actually beating regular midfielders for the ground ball and stuff like that. So I'm really excited by what he brings. He looks more like that sort of fluid, nice moving basketballer type as a ruckman, but they both sit around the 200 centimetres. So in a way, historically, maybe a little bit small for a ruckman of what we've been seeing in recent times, but I think teams are sort of valuing that kind of Luke Jackson, bash and crash athlete type. So interesting to see how they go. You've got Archie Ludovic, who sort of reminds me a little bit of a Cadman in his draft year. I think he's going to be really prominent as a key position forward. As I said, I do expect more midfielders to come in and sort of push some of those key position players out. We know clubs like to draft more of the mids and the small forward types. You've got Jasper Hay. I probably should have mentioned him in the ruck category. He's more, again, towing that line. He's like an undersized ruck, more like Lewis Emmett in the sense that he's bash and crash. And Liam Heatherton, who's an academy player linked to the Northern clubs and a key position forward as well. So they're probably the early ones to look at. But certainly if you're looking 2024 to 2025, the key position players look a little bit better at this stage. So I expect that part of it to stay pretty similar. The other position that I kind of want to hone in on here, and I think is prominent in this draft, is a couple of really, really good halfback flankers, particularly Zeke Uland, who, again, we talk about that opportunity to play midfield. Is he going to go inside? He's a little bit small at 178 centimetres. So if an AFL club did bring Zeke Uland into the fold, they'd certainly have to watch what they did with their other players in the overall mix. But I absolutely love the way this guy plays. He's a beautiful user. He's got that speed element to his game, and he's really, really highly competitive and physical with the way that he plays, even though he is 178 centimetres. So it'll be interesting to see what position he plays. Like, does he go into the midfield, or does he just stay as that sort of more outside type player, more of the Errol Goulden, I suppose you would say. And the other two that I'm really excited about that play this role are Josh Lindsay from the Geelong Falcons and Sam Grilich from the Chargers as well. Both left footers. I think Grilich is a left footer. Josh Lindsay certainly is. And Josh Lindsay particularly reminds me a lot of Harry Oliver from the 2024 draft. So that beautiful left foot kick. He's really competitive, really physical, and he defends really well one-on-one as well. So I'm excited for him, excited for Grilich. You've got, obviously, like I mentioned a few off the top with your forward line, more of your small forwards. I mentioned like a Noah Hibbins-Hargraves, who is sort of that medium type forward. But I think, again, similar to the midfielders, I think those players are going to kind of appear as the season goes on. Your medium forwards, a few more medium defenders, and your midfielders, they're all going to start getting games, because you've got to think this age group from sort of 16 to 17, 17 to 18, that sort of area, is where such a big amount of improvement comes. And we'll see that through the pre-season with the Coates Talent League clubs. I'm going to go check out some of those training sessions to see if I can sort of, keep an eye on who's sort of training the house down, for lack of a better word, and kind of see who could break out into this draft crop. But I think the overall thing that I'm trying to say here is you've got to remember that the clubs are looking at that overall upside. We go back to the beginning of the 2024 draft season. It was Tom Gross, Christian Moraes for all the rap. But if they don't have some of those high-level athletic, upside traits to them, I think they are going to slide a little bit. And the more and more we're seeing that we're going away from that kind of good footballer type to more of a blend of athlete and power and acceleration and all of those sorts of things. So very interesting to sort of break that down. Thanks for listening to this first video for 2025. I do want to say once again, just a big thank you to Video Pro, who have put me back on my feet here with creating videos. So massive thanks to them. Massive thanks to you guys for waiting out, because I didn't put any videos out for so long and you were probably wondering where I was. But this was a nice one just to kick things off, that 2025 crop. We're going to be delving a lot deeper as the season goes on. That is a wrap for this one, guys, and I'll see you next time.